Major Boston Bruins plans have been revealed in today's intro press conference with Marco Sturm and Don Sweeney, and they've revealed multiple plans the Bruins have going for this offseason, including stuff going on in the team, what they expect, and also some very interesting moves that are going to be made by the Boston Bruins. And a lot of people are going to be very, very questioned about this idea. We're going to be breaking it all down here in this video. Very quickly, before we do jump into it, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of news coming. Starting off with this press conference I mentioned earlier today, and now going on with the start of the offseason. We're going to have all the news here. You won't want to miss it, so be sure to join us here. But let's get straight into it. We have no time to waste here today, but let's start off here with the first list. Now, I got another list here today, so we're going to jump over very quickly on Marco Sturm's Bruins plans. Now, a bit of this was discussed in earlier today's video, but we have some more on top of this now. So, Marco Sturm's main idea was that he wants to get to the point. He wants to get to the Bruins, get there now, and start working. He said he wants to add up front, playing good defense won't change, and adding to the special teams. Those are the three that we really discussed here earlier in today's video, and be sure to go check that out, of course, after this one if you're looking for kind of the whole rundown of the press conference realistically at, like, a much smaller scale. But doing these three things has been something that not just Marco Sturm is planning on doing, but Don Sweeney has also voiced this throughout the past few seasons as well, with whoever it may be at Coach Bruce Cassidy, Jim Montgomery, Joe Sacco. That's been the attempted plan, but Marco Sturm seems like the guy who's really ready to go and get this done. Now, when we go over to the coaching staff, of course, we have Marco Sturm here as the head coach, Chris Kelly, Jay Leach, Bob Esnesa. That is going to remain where we are right now. Now, there is going to be another search by Marco Sturm in partnership with Don Sweeney, looking for another assistant coach who will be able to add to the special teams. And I think that is something that this Bruins team really has been aiming to do here in this offseason, and we haven't even gotten into it yet, but the fact that they've already picked this out as one thing in specific that they want to go and tackle is a very good sign, at least going forward for the start of it. And that's where kind of the special teams and finding a way to have more offense comes into play, because we know you can't have an offense if you don't have a power play, and vice versa. And the fact that you need to have someone who's reliable on the offense, someone reliable on the power play that you can really trust every time that unit goes out there, is something the Bruins really have not had in the last little while, especially this season with the sheer amount of injuries that they've had, not just up front, but on the defense as well, and also how many players they genuinely got rid of from this power play at the trade deadline. And that's where we really saw to see this whole power play unit go downhill. Now, you see right here, the power play units that Puckpedia has right now are not what we saw necessarily the entire time after the trade deadline, but Casey Middlestad, Elias Lindholm, Pavel Zacha, David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, Marco Sturm, Pavel Zacha, Morgan Geekie, Mason Lohrei, and Elias Lindholm on defense. Now, this is a very interesting set of units here, of course, and definitely not some of the top in the NHL, but the fact that we're seeing, Hampus Lindholm on that second pairing, my apologies, but the fact that, once again, on this power play 2 unit, we're looking at a 2 defenseman. Normally, you see a nice sharp shooting forward there on the back, and you see, Mara, who's not likely wouldn't be on there just necessarily just yet. He is a very solid player and could eventually make a power play unit, but these units are not anything to really be worried of if you're the team on the penalty kill. Now, when we go to this offense as well, we saw a lot of this team really have that success this season, not as a team necessarily, but individually. David Pastrnak, Morgan Geekie, Casey Middlestad a little bit at the end of here this season. Not necessarily the best season himself for him, Elias Lindholm at the beginning of the season, but started off and then kind of finished off pretty hot here at the second half. And I think it's a good sign going forward. And once again, a lot of these younger players that we're really waiting for to crack this offense and break through on this offense is still going to be a big part of the move that we're seeing Marco Sturm make. And I feel like that's kind of touching on the bottom points as well. They're at the bottom. They're not going to look too much ahead, and they have to find a way to get more offense once again. They're going to see what they can do in-house, see what's wrong, fix up the issues, and then they're going to go out here and really kind of analyze this free agency, analyze this draft, and analyze what they can do before the beginning of next season to really clue up all of these issues. And of course, Marco Sturm has been introduced to a few players so far, had a few discussions, but we really have not seen just yet the full chemistry that we've seen from Marco Sturm and this team just yet. But sooner rather than later, we will get that, of course. It's still quite a bit of time until the beginning of next season, so that is nothing to worry about here. But one final thing to cut off Marco Sturm's end piece here is the coaching staff, as I mentioned earlier, will look at the coaching staff, and they want an assistant who has that power play experience. And one name that kind of comes into mind could be, I feel like this is a bit of a stretch, and let me know what you think here in the comments below, but a guy like Patrice Bergeron, who was at the press conference today for his good buddy Marco Sturm, he's been someone that is very interested and has been in a few reports about possibly joining this Bruins staff along with Zdeno Chara. Now, I do think that this is a bit of a stretch, of course, once again. It would be very cool to see, but I feel like this was more just a buddy system kind of coming in, supporting your guy, supporting the guy that you played with and won a Stanley Cup with when he was getting his new head coaching job. So let me know what you think there, but we also have to jump in, of course, to, once again, Don Sweeney's case here in this, and he had also quite a bit of interesting stuff to say, and you probably see there at the bottom that we're going to jump into in here in a moment, so stick around for that, but Don Sweeney has a few ideas here. He said the team's not going to be the same and not what they're going to be. They're not going to be looking similar to or not going to be looking too similar is what their hope is to what we saw last season. They want to make some changes, but they're not going to stray away too far from this, what worked last season. And it wasn't very much, let's be honest there. I feel like that the Bruins had a lot to work with, but didn't really make it work with that. But, that's coming with a lot of process as well. Bringing up some players, having Marco Sturm really develop those players. That is one thing that Boston and Don Sweeney have really put their mind out there for Marco Sturm. And you see, the transition from players now to the future and knows player development is the reason that they went out and got Marco Sturm. And pointing that forward, he named guys like Fraser Minten, named guys like Matt Pastrnak, named guys like Mason Lohrei that can really have a lot of success in development with Marco Sturm. And the fact that we're seeing this and kind of seeing the plan for this Bruins team, and I'll pull this up once again when we go over to the lines here, there's going to be a lot of younger players who may crack this lineup to start the season, but may not be here at the end of the season. I feel like that's kind of vice versa as well. There's some young players who may not be on this list right away, such as Fraser Minten. Has not played a game with the Boston Bruins just yet, but will eventually be in this lineup at a regular pace. And I'm fully willing to believe that. Come back in a couple months if I am wrong there, but Fraser Minten is a guy that I think the Bruins are putting a lot of hope in for this upcoming season, and especially for the development from Marco Sturm. And of course, this can't go without saying that the veterans on this team right now are not exactly what the Bruins were hoping it would be. A lot of guys that you figured would be on this team, Brandon Carlo, Brad Marchand, of course, a lot of these guys who were supposed to guide these younger players are not here. And I think that's another big decision as to why Don Sweeney made the case for Marco Sturm and really brought him in more than once to go about all of their meetings and really bring him in to develop this younger team without the help necessarily of a bunch of different veterans. And when you go as well to kind of back to what Don Sweeney was saying, knowing that the player's development, knowing that the transition from now to the future is a big part, and Marco Sturm is going to face that, it also comes with not overselling and having an open canvas. They want to have a lot of stuff going on, and they want to have a lot of stuff being able to be worked on, but not changing the narrative of the team too much that it's unrecognizable. They want to be in the playoffs once again as soon as possible, but that may also come with trading the 7th overall pick. And this is one thing that Don Sweeney did say here today in this press conference. And when we do go over it here, he said that the Sturm presser made it clear that they're not ruling out trading that 7th overall pick later this month. Now, this is something that I feel like is very controversial at this point. And I've gone over a recent article, not in today's video this morning, but last video yesterday, that a recent report has Porter Martone dropping them to 7th to the Boston Bruins. Now, this is something that I feel like, I'll mention again, I think it's incredibly unlikely, but the fact that that's even being thrown out there is something that I don't think you can risk trading this pick if something like that is being put out there. Now, we also have another article, which I probably will make a video on tomorrow, saying that the Bruins may trade up. Once again, I think very, very out there, but it is a possibility. I don't want to count it out, especially when this comes out from Kevin Paul Dupont. He was at the press conference today, and of course, all of my notes here are coming from this presser live. Wasn't added, of course, but I was watching it, written down some notes, and I want to get your guys' opinion here. But trading the 7th overall pick is something that is very interesting, and with the availability of cap space they have, I feel like if you want to go out and get a player that would help now, they have the ability to do that. And they also have the money that they need to go out here, sign some players, not just in free agency, but go ahead and sign a few pending free agents on the Bruins team. One name I kind of want to throw out there, once again, is Henri Jokiharju, and still, I feel like this is, I'm kind of by myself on this one, but the fact that he played so good and made Nikita Zadorov look very, very good near at the end of the season, I think it really is just a kind of a fit that would be perfect for this team, especially when we're looking at Ian Mitchell there on the third line right defense pairing behind Andrew Peeke. So, there's a lot of moves there. Not saying that is necessarily one that should or will be made, but it's one that I want to see kind of brought back and get another bigger sample size out of it. But I want to, once again, as I mentioned, pull up the draft and trading the 7th overall pick, even though Jake O'Brien is someone that we've been really linked to for a little while now in the mock drafts, and I'm a big fan of him. I'm perfectly okay with getting a guy like Jake O'Brien. You never really know what happens in that top 6. When we go and look at that top 6, Anton Frundell, James Hagens, Caleb Denoye, Michael Misa, Porter Martone, I feel like Matthew Schaefer is likely the number 1 as long as the Islanders keep that 1st overall pick. There's a lot of guys there that I would be perfectly okay with. And Jake O'Brien is still one, but any other one of those players that would really be a much bigger consideration for this Bruins team. So, I feel like we got to take a lot of this with a grain of salt because there still is a lot of movement that's going to be made here until the draft, and I don't want to say that trading the 7th overall pick, as I mentioned, right now is the greatest idea because of all those reports, but I simply don't hate it. So Don Sweeney kind of hit that a lot today here in this press conference where it was trying to highlight Marco Sturm as the new coach, and Marco Sturm also brought himself out and said a lot of stuff that he plans on doing with this team. So I know this part right here necessarily was a bit of a kind of another deeper dive into the video this morning, but let me know what you think about the Bruins' plans that they somewhat revealed here in this press conference, because I feel like this is a big sign going forward for what we want to do, what we want to see, and the fact that even though we don't have too many veterans on the lineup and we're looking at a bunch of free agents, of course, and this comes from Bruins Cap Space on X, Twitter, go follow them. Does a great job on all of these lists, gives it for a team as well. Go look at him. Very, very good job. But there's a lot of names here that are very interesting and some that could fit this team a lot more than a lot of people think. So let me know what you think about all of this. Of course, there's still so much news that we're going to be hearing coming out from Marco Sturm over these next few days. I still have so many notes from this press conference that we're going to have to throw into a video here or there, and you won't want to miss that, of course, because we have a lot of Bruins news coming your way throughout the rest of the offseason. We're not slowing down. I feel like I don't want to brag, but I was one of the first on the press conference this morning, mainly because I wasn't there and I was watching it while I was recording pretty much. But, of course, it's all fun and games, but I want to bring you guys all the Bruins news. So if you haven't already and you're looking for your Bruins news, hit the sub button. We got a lot of stuff coming for you guys. But that is all I have in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. You guys are the best, but I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.